Well, let me try and explain to you why you need all your superpowers, because I know that if you had your way, young man, you'd just have happy all the time and playful, wouldn't you? And you, young Molly, if you had your way all the time, you'd just have love and all the nice things, and you wouldn't have the ones that you think are bad, like scared and anxious. Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a little boy, and his favourite thing was to stand on the hill outside his town and watch all the big boys flying their kites. He used to watch those kites and think how fantastic it would be to fly up that high. Imagine all the things you could see, and you'd be up there with the birds. How fantastic. So one day he decided to build himself a kite, but one big enough that it could lift him up. Yeah, I know, how cool. So he built the kite, took the kite to the hill and tied himself into it and waited for the wind. But he was too heavy and the wind couldn't lift him up. So what he did was he decided that he needed to leave some superpowers behind, or certainly make them so much smaller that they weren't so heavy. So he made anxious really, really, really tiny. And he made brave really, 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 really tiny. And he made scared so tiny you could hardly see him. And he made happy huge. Because when happy's huge, you feel like you could lift up anyway, don't you? And surely enough, he began to float up. Up and up and up he went, higher and higher. And it was great because he was looking down on all of his friends, and he could see his school, and he could see where Mummy worked in the little cafe. He could see everything for miles and miles and miles. He could even see Grandma's house from up there, and that's a long way away. Up and up he went. All the birds came and flew round him. Oh, it was fantastic. Higher and higher and higher he went. Soon he got so high that he couldn't see much because he was so high up he couldn't see. And if he really, really strained his eyes, he could see a little bit. And what he could see was his mummy. And she looked really worried, and she was running round asking people where he was. Thought he'd been taken or he was lost. And she was getting really upset. And he could see all his other friends going off to football practice. And tonight was the night they picked the team. And if he wasn't there, But he just kept going higher and higher and higher. Because Happy was having such a good time, he just got bigger and bigger. And the bigger Happy had got, the more the kite flew up. And there was nothing he could do. But then, fortunately, and this is why we have all of our superpowers, he began to get a little bit scared. Because what if he kept going and couldn't get back? And he began to get a little bit anxious. What if he never got back? His mummy was really upset, and he might not get back in time for football trials. And as he began to get a little bit scared and anxious got bigger and bigger and bigger. And as they got bigger, guess what happened? The kite began to drop down, because scared and anxious were quite heavy when they're big, and the more scared and anxious he got, the more it dropped down. But he didn't like being scared and anxious because they got so big, he was dropping down really, 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 really quick, and then he might hurt himself. And then he got more scared and anxious, and then he dropped down even quicker. So then Calm stepped up. Calm just said, "Come on, scared and anxious, you're helping us get down, but too fast. Let's just slow this down. If we just calm down a little bit, then you won't be too big and we won't fall too fast, but we will drop back down." So Calm held Scared and Anxious's hand, and very slowly they began to drop back down. They were still going a little bit quick, but Happy was so much happier that they were going down that he got bigger too, and they just slowed it down a little bit more, and they landed safely. And he managed to go and tell his mummy he was okay and get to football practice on time. So you see, you do need all your superpowers, but in just the right amount, so you don't get too high and you're not too low, just nicely in the middle.